justice from the shadows.
Hello everyone, welcome to What If Deku Had Shadow Demon Assassin in him and became Vigilante movie. Before we start, please go support Jeff3302J for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistaken character's gender, but of course Deku is a male. Izuku is always teased by Katsuki for not having a quirk, but he will discover that he has something that will change his view of the world. Chapter 1. In a place darker than night, someone could be heard crying. Within all that darkness, a child could be seen crying. The child had green hair and freckles on his face that gave him an even more adorable appearance. Then, footsteps began to sound, making the little boy raise his head and start searching for the source of the footsteps, as the echo made it seem as if several people were approaching. But the little boy saw red eyes staring at him, which frightened him a little. But how did all this happen? Well, for that, we have to go back a few days. In a house, a little green-haired boy could be seen watching television. They were showing a report about a hero, and this excited the little boy because it wasn't just any hero. It was his idol and number one hero, the symbol of peace. For as long as he could remember, he had always loved heroes and dreamed of becoming one someday. His name was Izuku Midoriya. The little boy couldn't contain his excitement about when his quirk would appear. His mother called him he came to eat since he had to go to school soon. When his mother left her son, she went to work. Izuku was walking to his class, but on the way he met his best friend. He was a boy with ash blonde hair and crimson eyes. His name was Katsuki Bakugo, and he had awakened his quirk a few days ago. His quirk consisted of creating small explosions from his hands. The two boys dreamed of the same goal. To become the next symbol of peace. Katsuki. Hey Izuku, do you know what your quirk is yet? Izuku. Not yet, but my mom is taking me to the doctor tomorrow and he'll tell me what my quirk is. Excited tone. After that short chat, the two boys continued playing. The next day, as the green-haired boy had said, his mother took him to the doctor. Izuku was so excited that he couldn't sleep the night before. When the doctor called them in and ran the tests, he gave them the bad news that the little green-haired boy didn't have a quirk because he had 5 toes. Izuku thought it was just a bad dream and that he had probably fallen asleep in the waiting room. All he hoped for was that his mother would wake him up and tell him it was their turn to go in, but that didn't happen. His dream of being a hero was lost, but what he didn't know was that this was only the beginning of a terrible nightmare. From the day he was told he didn't have a quirk, his only friend distanced himself from him, and not only that, but he had started to be mocked and bullied by him and his classmates. He always came home with some bruise or wound. When his mother asked him what happened, Izuku always replied that he had simply fallen. The freckled boy, even without a quirk, never stopped helping people, even if they ended up betraying him. The green-haired boy was sitting in a secluded spot during recess so he wouldn't be bothered. Suddenly, he heard a small scream and quickly went to investigate, seeing the ash-blonde boy and 2 other kids bullying another child. Without hesitation, Izuku went to help the boy, stepping between them. Tatsuki told him to move if he didn't want to get hurt too. Izuku tried to reason with his friend, but it was no use, as the ash-blonde boy unleashed a small explosion that sent the freckled boy sprawling to the ground, unconscious. And that's what led us to the current situation. Stop crying, in a cold tone. Izuku. Who are you? Backing away. I'm you, leaving the green-haired boy confused. You are my reincarnation. Izuku. Reincarnation. Confused. Reincarnation is when a person dies and after a certain time comes back to life, of course not with the same appearance and name, but with their memories and their soul. Izuku. Does that mean you're a ghost? Scared. Basically, yes, but I won't hurt you since after all you are my reincarnation and hurting you would be like hurting myself. Izuku. I understand, where are we? Looking around. I'm surprised you don't know your own mind. Izuku. We're in my mind. Receiving a yes from the strange being. Izuku simply began to imagine a less dark place, which worked. He started imagining many things, letting himself go. The green-haired boy had imagined the symbol of peace and created a mini-adventure, but everything disappeared as the strange being snapped its fingers. Concentrate, you still have company outside. Izuku. Sorry, apologizing for letting his imagination run wild, but what can I do? I'm not very strong and I don't have a quirk. Besides, I can't hurt Kachin, he's your friend, sarcastically. As he said that, the freckled boy lowered his sad head and then the silhouette let out a sigh. You might not hurt him, but I will. Izuku. Wait. Meanwhile, in the real world, Izuku had gotten up from the ground. Tatsuki. Hey, what more do you want, you damn Deku? But he received no answer, which annoyed the ash-haired man. Tatsuki. Hey, I ask you a question. He approached, but stopped when he saw the green-haired boy's gaze. His expression was cold and emotionless, but what frightened him most were the red eyes. Before he could do anything, he was on the ground. The ash-haired boy's friends tried to help him, but they quickly collapsed unconscious. Slowly, he approached the ash-haired boy. "Izuku. If you try to bother me again, I won't show you any mercy." In a cold tone. Itsuki simply nodded in fear, and all he could see was his former friend calmly leaving the place. Chapter 2. After what happened, no one bothered the green-haired boy again, since Katsuki wanted revenge for that humiliation, but ended up in the hospital with serious injuries to his hands. Izuku had changed a lot, becoming cold and reserved, but when he saw someone who needed help, he offered it. The freckled boy had met a girl a year older than him. The girl had light blue hair and eyes the same color as her hair. They had become friends after Izuku saved her from being bullied by some boys. When he asked her why they were bothering her, the girl told him it was because she was very curious and sometimes unintentionally made others uncomfortable or offended them. Izuku told her to just ignore them and find people who wouldn't judge her and would accept her for who she was. After that incident, the two formed a small bond of friendship. The freckled boy was cold and reserved with everyone at his school, but with Najire he was completely different. With her, the freckled boy behaved like he used to. To do so, there were sometimes certain rumors that his classmates said about him and the light blue-haired girl having a romance, but they were just simple rumors. Izuku also trained since he didn't want to be weak anymore and wanted to be able to defend himself without anyone's help. Izuku had also managed to form a small relationship with his former self from another time. Currently, a green-haired boy could be seen meditating in a park, but in reality, he was in his mind talking to that person. "Izuku. By the way, you haven't told me your name. I always call you Ghost or my old self. I'm curious to know what my name was before and what happened to me." In a curious tone. "You really want to know what happened to me?" Looking at the little boy who was nodding, he sighed. "Fine, I'll tell you, but first let me introduce myself. My name is Seven." "Izuku? 7. Confused. 7. Is there a problem with my name?" Coldly. "Izuku? And no, not at all. It's just that it seems strange to me that your name is 7. A little scared by the look the boy was giving him. 7. Anyway, many years ago, Japan was divided into different islands. Each island had something that differentiated it from the others. I was known as the best assassin of all, belonging to a group called the Shadow Assassins, which was made up only of the best assassins. I was in that group for a while until I betrayed them." "Izuku? Why?" Confused. 7. Because I fell in love with a girl. But she betrayed me and stabbed me in the back, her hair covered her face, and she clenched her fists, remembering the event. Luckily, I survived, but as a consequence, I lost my memory. I don't know how, but I arrived on an island where I met my friends and the person I fell in love with. I had many adventures with them." A small smile appeared on her face. "But the other islands, seeing that I was still alive, sent people to kill me. So I decided to leave the island that was my home to protect those who had become my family. I knew it wouldn't end until those people saw me dead, so I decided that I would be the one to kill them first. I headed towards where it all began and where it all had to end. On my way, I encountered enemies but also new friends. When I arrived at the Shadow Assassin's base, I found my old friends. Together we fought to defeat the Shadow Assassins. There were many casualties. I saw how one by one my companions died in front of me. We were all tired and very wounded, but still we kept fighting. When I killed the leader, I realized I was the only one left. My friends, my family, even the girl I fell in love with were dead. I left that horrible scene and walked until I lost my strength. I was seriously injured, but I didn't care. I decided that since I no longer had anything to fight for, anything to protect, there was no point in continuing to live. And that's how I died. Well, that was until I woke up in this place." After finishing his story, the green-haired boy said nothing and simply lowered his head. He couldn't understand how he had suffered so much in his previous life, so without warning, he hugged 7, who was surprised by the little boy's action. 7. Hey, what do you think you're doing? "Izuku? We all need a hug sometimes." 7 said nothing and only stroked the green-haired boy's head. 7. You'd better come back to reality. "Izuku? Huh? Why?" 7. You have company. Showing him that in the outside world, Najire was waving her hand in front of the freckled boy's face. The freckled boy said goodbye to 7, leaving him alone. In the outside world, Izuku slowly opened his eyes, observing Najire, who smiled when she saw the green-haired boy open his eyes. "Izuku? Najire, what are you doing here?" "Najire. I came to play and I saw you. I was talking to you, but you didn't answer." Pouting. "Izuku? Well, I was talking." But he realized he couldn't tell her what he was doing, so he quickly tried to make an excuse. "Izuku? I was lost in my thoughts and couldn't hear you." "Najire. And what were you thinking about? Curious tone. Izuku. Nothing important. Getting up. Najire. Hey, Izuku-kun. Izuku. Yes. Najire. Do you want to watch something fun? Cheerful and excited tone. Izuku. Yes, why not? Before he could do anything, the girl grabbed his hand and started running. Izuku simply let himself be carried away, knowing that when he excited his friend, nothing could stop him. While all this was happening, in the freckled Seven's mind, he could only see the girl smiling like that. 7. She looks a lot like her. As he said that, he vanished in a flash. Chapter 3. Years passed, and with them, the friendship between the green-haired boy and the light blue-haired girl grew. But unfortunately for the freckled boy, his friend was moving away and he would never see her again. Before Najire left, she gave Izuku a necklace and they both promised to meet again. That was the last day the green-haired boy saw his friend. After that day, Izuku began training relentlessly, determined to show his friend how strong he had become when he saw her again. 7 taught him everything he knew, and although it was difficult for the green-haired boy to learn what the former shadow assassin told him, he always found a way to do it. When he turned 10, a tragedy occurred that left the green-haired boy's mother in a coma. Flashback. The green-haired boy was seen accompanying his mother shopping, but on the way home they encountered some villains. When the green-haired boy tried to ask a hero for help, he only saw the hero turn a blind eye and leave. Izuku had to fight them, but in a moment of carelessness, the villain activated a quirk that allowed him to create tremors when he placed his hands on the ground. As he did so, a wall collapsed on top of the freckled boy, but his mother shielded him with her body. Seeing this, the villains quickly fled. When Izuku emerged from the rubble, he saw his mother covered in blood. He quickly approached her chest and saw that she was still alive, so he began to call for help, but it seemed that no one could hear him. Without wasting any time, the freckled boy carried his mother's body to the nearest hospital. Luckily, the doctors attended to her in time. When the police arrived and he explained everything, including the part about the hero not helping him, the police didn't believe him and simply they noted down the villain's information. When they left the room, a doctor entered and told him that his mother had fallen into a coma. This news saddened the green-haired Izuku. He clenched his fists, knowing that if the hero had helped him, none of this would have happened. Izuku promised his mother that he would get revenge on the villains who did this to her. Upon leaving the hospital, Izuku began to walk aimlessly until he reached the house, where he took a knife and left. 7. I see you're determined to do this. Izuku. I swear they'll pay for what they did to my mother. In a cold voice. 7. Then count me in. As he said that, Izuku's eyes turned a bright red. The green-haired boy ran through the city, asking people if they had seen individuals matching his description. Only a few said they had seen them heading somewhere. When Izuku arrived, he saw the villains. Upon seeing them, an immense hatred surged through him. In a blur of speed, he vanished and reappeared in front of the villains, who had no time to react. One of them had already slashed his throat. The villains activated their quirks to defend themselves, but it was useless since Izuku moved so fast that it was impossible for them to land a single blow. When Izuku eliminated the remaining villains, he felt a tremor. Turning around, he saw it was the villain who had caused the wall to collapse and his mother to fall into a coma. He quickly went to attack, but the villain intensified the tremor, causing him to lose his balance. The villain took the knife from him and threw it away. He began to pummel the freckled boy, who was unable to defend himself. His quirk made his body tremble, then the villain grabbed his leg and slammed him hard to the ground, but then threw him towards a tree, causing it to fall on top of him and trapping his foot. The freckled boy didn't know what to do, but then he heard Seven's voice. 7. Izuku, summon your weapon. Izuku? What? Confused. 7. Just focus on the knife and make it come to you. The freckled boy tried, but it wasn't working. He couldn't concentrate and the villain kept getting closer. 7 quickly intervened, grabbing the green-haired boy's body and summoning his weapon. The villain only heard something approaching and when he turned, the knife plunged into his face, causing him to fall to the ground. When he managed to get out of the tree, he stood up and saw the villains' bodies on the ground. 7. It seems that nothing will change. Having said that, he left the place. End of flashback. After that incident, the green-haired boy had to find work to pay for the hospital bills and buy food. For the first few days, he couldn't find a job anywhere. Then 7 suggested he work as an assassin so he could improve his skills and earn a lot of money. Izuku didn't want to accept, but seeing the enormous amount of money the hospital had, he had no choice. At first, no one wanted to hire him, doubting his ability to handle the job. Weeks passed, and the green-haired boy rose through the ranks of the underworld. Everyone was surprised to see how a kid could become the best assassin, eventually reaching the #1 position. Those in the underworld were astonished to see someone rise so quickly in so few months. Thanks to this, he could earn a considerable amount of money, enough to pay all the hospital bills and ensure his mother received the best treatment. Every day, Izuku visited his mother, hoping that one day she would wake up. Chapter 4. Years passed, and with them, Izuku's name became known throughout the underworld. Now 15 years old, Izuku was not only the highest paid assassin, but also the most wanted. His assassin name was Seven, a name he chose from his old life. The green-haired boy had forgotten the promise he made long ago, as his missions sometimes resulted in severe head injuries, causing him to forget things. Izuku trained to use his power to summon his weapons. Seven told him he only had to focus on the weapon he wanted to summon, and he would succeed. This was very difficult for the freckled boy, as he was always in constant danger and had to be alert to his opponent's attacks, leaving him no time to clear his mind. But little by little, he mastered it. Izuku always used melee weapons because they were silent and didn't require reloading like firearms. On every mission, Izuku either lost his weapon or had it destroyed by the villains, so Seven told him to go find his old gear. Izuku spent a lot of time looking for it since Japan was divided into islands back then, which complicated his search. But thanks to a reward he put up for information on the whereabouts of his old belongings, he managed to track down a collector. When he arrived, he stealthily infiltrated the mansion and began searching for his things. The place was quite enormous, and everywhere he looked, he saw many antique items. He reached a room where there were several antique suits of armor. There, he saw his old sword and his outfit. He quickly recognized it since Seven had told him about the 1,000-piece demon sword. Just then, he heard a noise. When the collector entered the room, it was empty and the items were gone. Meanwhile, Izuku had returned home, where he had the suit made. It was identical to Seven's, but he noticed some holes in it, so he decided to repair it and give it a new design. Seven wasn't bothered since it wasn't his business anymore, and he could only watch as Izuku made a new change to his suit. Clothes. After a few hours, he had finished his new suit and was trying it on. 7. It's not bad. Izuku. It's comfortable and I can conceal my weapons. While looking himself up and down. 7. Are you going to debut your new suit? This question made the green-haired boy blush slightly, as it was exactly what he was about to do. After that somewhat embarrassing moment for the freckled boy, Seven told him that he would teach him how to use the 1,000 demonic pieces sword, as it was no ordinary sword. The first time the green-haired boy saw the sword, he was surprised by its shape, as at first glance the weapon appeared to be broken. But Seven explained that this was how the sword was designed. To use it, he had to be completely focused on the blade. He had to become one with his weapon. At first, it was difficult for him, and he almost lost his arm for losing concentration for just a few seconds. But after so much training, he learned to master it. The edge of the weapon was impressive, as it could cut through anything as if it were butter. Izuku was returning from work. Upon arriving home, he let out a tired sigh and began preparing dinner. He was alone in the house. His only company was Seven. Then he received a call. Tiredly, Izuku picked up his cell phone and answered. He was asked to go somewhere. Since a customer wanted his service, he quickly finished eating and left the place, heading to the location where the customer wanted to meet him. Upon arriving, he saw nothing until he heard a noise behind him, so he quickly drew his sword and spun around, bringing his weapon to within centimeters of the person's neck. Izuku was surprised to see such a strange animal, but even more so when he heard the animal speak. You must be Seven, right? Izuku. Depends on who's asking. Oh, let me introduce myself. My name is Nezu, and I'm the principal of the prestigious UA Hero Academy. Izuku. Why would the principal of the academy hire me? Nezu. Sighing, my academy has been constantly attacked by villains, and the reputation of the academy, as well as mine, is falling. Izuku. Get to the point, principal. Nezu. What I want is to hire you to protect the students. Izuku. I'm an assassin, not a babysitter. Putting away his weapon, if you want a babysitter, I can give you the number of someone who does that. Starting to leave. Nezu. Wait. Calling the freckled boy's attention, we're offering you a good amount of money. I just want the media to know that my academy is safe and that it cares about its students. Izuku. 25,000. Nezu. Huh. Izuku. If you want me to protect your students and your academy, my price is 25,000. Nezu. That's a lot of money. Izuku. Izuku. Then find someone else willing to do the job. He started to leave, but was stopped by a shout. Nezu. Alright, 25,000 it is. Izuku. Then I think we have a deal, director. Nezu. But there will be some rules you must follow. Izuku. That seems fair. You'll tell me the rules first thing tomorrow morning. Before the principal could say anything else, the freckled boy had left. The next day, the principal of UA was in his office drinking tea while reviewing some documents. What are the rules? The rodent got so scared that he let out a small cry and, dropping his teacup, quickly turned around to see the freckled boy who had just taken a seat. Izuku. So, what are the rules? Nezu. How do I get in here? Izuku. Through the window, pointing to an open window. So, what's my job and what are the rules? Having said that, the director took a seat and poured some tea for the green-haired man, and the two began to talk about what they would do from now on. Chapter 5. The hours passed and finally the two reached an agreement. Nezu happily placed his teacup on the table and stood up. Nezu. Very well then, young seven, please follow me. Izuku. Huh? Where to? Confused tone. Nezu. To see your classroom, but first you should change your clothes so as not to attract attention. Izuku. Sighing, is there a place where I can change? Nezu. Of course. While handing him a uniform, by the way, could you tell me your name since I can't always call you Seven? The green-haired man hesitated a little, but he knew he had to tell her his name if he wanted the mission to go well. Izuku Midoriya. Having said that, the freckled boy went to change and was surprised that the uniform the principal gave him was his size. Once he changed, he put his things away and followed the principal. They had both agreed that the deal they made would remain just between them. The principal told him to wait outside while he spoke with the teacher. After a few minutes, the principal came out with a dark-haired man who just looked him up and down and then sighed. Enter. With that, the freckled boy simply walked in, quickly gaining everyone's attention. Then the principal spoke. Nezu. Young people, he will be your new partner. Before a gray-haired man could say anything, I spoke. Itsuki. Damn nerd, what the hell are you doing here? Izuku, it's also a pleasure to see you back Yagu. In a cold tone. Nezu. It seems you two already know each other. Izuku. We share some history from when we were kids. Nezu. Well, changing the subject, this is Izuku Midoriya, your new classmate. He joined a little late since he's a special case. The last thing he said confused everyone and only piqued the curiosity of the class, even his teacher. The principal said only what was necessary and left. The green-haired boy went to take his seat in class. He didn't care much since his only mission was to protect the students and keep a low profile. Classes proceeded normally. Aizawa told them that they would soon be going on a camping trip. After classes ended, Kitsuki intercepted the green-haired boy on his way home. The ash-blonde boy demanded an explanation of what he was doing studying at UA. Izuku simply replied that what he did with his life was none of his business and walked away, leaving the ash-blonde boy furious. The green-haired boy went to the principal's office to get his things and find out more about the camping trip. The principal gave him the necessary information and details about the classes of those who would be going. With that information, the green-haired boy left. As he exited the building, he saw 3 people but didn't pay them much attention. The 3 people were entering the building. 2 were boys, one with yellow hair, the other with dark blue hair, and the last was a girl with light blue hair. The green-haired boy continued on his way, passing by the girl who glanced at him. The girl thought he looked very familiar. Her friends, seeing that she was distracted, called her over, which made her turn to look at them. But when she turned back to look at the boy, he was gone. She told her friend she was fine. Back with the green-haired boy, he had arrived home, changed, and quickly left. On the way, he bought some flowers. When he arrived at the hospital, he only signed some visitor papers and went to a specific room. Upon entering, he took out the previous flowers, which had already wilted, and put in the new ones. The green-haired boy sat down next to his mother and began to tell her what had happened. He always told her what he did every day, but he always omitted the things he did at work. Izuku stayed in that room for a few hours until a doctor entered and he was told that visiting hours were over. Izuku started to leave, but before he could, the doctor stopped him. Doctor? Excuse me, young man, but it's been a long time since your mother went into a coma. Have you considered the possibility of not wanting to finish the sentence? Izuku. Disconnecting her? In a serious tone, receiving a nod from the doctor. Izuku. No, I've never thought about it and the answer is no. I know she'll wake up. Maybe not today and maybe not tomorrow, but I know she will. Looking at the doctor with his red eyes, just do your job, doc. We don't want a tragedy to happen, do we? Standing in front of him. The doctor could only shake his head as he covered himself with leaves and closed his eyes as if that would save him. When he felt nothing, he opened his eyes and pulled down the leaves. Seeing that the green-haired man was gone, he let out a sigh of relief. Meanwhile, on the rooftops of the houses, the green-haired man could be seen running. He jumped into an alley, but a portal appeared beneath him. The green-haired man fell to the ground, quickly got up, and drew his weapon. He saw a bar in front of him. He didn't know what was happening until he saw 2 people in front of him. One was a purple mist, and the other was a boy with a hand over his face. Izuku. Who are you and where am I? "Shut up, you're noisy," said the boy with his hand on his face. "Demura, I'll tell the sensei that the boy is here." "Demura. TSK, as you wish, but first, serve me something, Kurogiri." The fog said nothing and only served him some alcohol. It also asked the green-haired boy if he wanted anything, to which he replied that a milkshake would be fine. When it handed him the milkshake, it left. After a few minutes, a television turned on. "I appreciate you coming. Izuku. Izuku. I was practically kidnapped. Tell me, what do you want?" "I've heard you've never failed a mission, hasn't you, Assassin 7? "Izuku. Who's asking?" "You can call me All for One. I want to hire your services, and don't worry, I promise to reward you well." As he said that, Kurogiri appeared and showed him a piece of paper. When Izuku saw it, his eyes lit up and a smile appeared on his face. "Izuku. Who do you want me to kill?" As he said that, a psychopathic laugh came from the villain. Chapter 6. After the green-haired boy spoke with the number 1 villain, he went to buy what he needed for the camp. Once he had bought everything, he went home and just rested. The next day, Izuku packed his things and went to UA. Upon arriving, he only had to listen to his teacher's instructions. When the black-haired boy finished explaining, everyone boarded the bus. On the way, everyone stared at the freckled boy who was looking out the window. Then, Deity spoke to an ash-blonde boy, drawing the attention of his classmates. "Hey bro, tell us, you know him, right? Could you tell us something about him?" "Bakugo. TSK, he's just a damn extra." "Izuku. Hey Bakugo, don't forget that this damn extra has kicked your ass many times." Upon hearing that, the ash-blonde grunted in annoyance. Everyone was surprised to see that he didn't lunge at the green-haired boy and simply watched as Bakugo took a seat. For the rest of the way, no one else said anything. When they arrived at the camp, Izuku saw the heroines who would be supervising their training. The heroines introduced themselves and gave them their first training session, explaining what they had to do. After hearing what the heroines said, Izuku left and started running toward the spot they had indicated. As he ran, he heard a small landslide and concluded that the heroines had done something to the other students. While running along the path, he encountered small obstacles that the green-haired boy easily destroyed. Izuku was the first to arrive and went to take a seat to wait for the others. After a few minutes, the teachers arrived and were surprised to see the freckled boy arrive first, even before them. So they just had to wait for the others, who arrived with some scratches and wounds. For the rest of the camp, Izuku just watched his classmates train. The green-haired boy knew the quirks of his class and only studied their performance. He was surprised that everyone was striving to be better heroes. The mission the principal had assigned him was somewhat boring, but luckily it wouldn't last long. As night fell, a small smoke came from the forest. This surprised the green-haired boy, so he headed towards it, but upon doing so, he saw a large blue fire spreading everywhere. He quickly deduced what was happening. They were being attacked by villains. He quickly returned to the others to warn them and create a strategy. When he arrived, the teacher said that several students were in different areas. Izuku was about to go, but then he heard one of the heroines desperately searching for her nephew. The green-haired boy told her that he would look for him. Once he said that, he started running. As he did so, Izuku thought that he could charge the principal for saving someone who wasn't in the contract. After all, he wasn't any different from the fake heroes. The reason she did these kinds of jobs was to earn money to pay for her mother's treatment. When she arrived, she saw the little boy running from a villain. The villain was about to catch the heroine's nephew, but in a flash, he saw the little boy disappear before his eyes. He started searching everywhere but couldn't find him. Meanwhile, in a tree, Izuku was covering the boy's mouth to keep him from screaming. When he saw the villain was gone, he removed his hand from the boy's mouth. "Izuku. Don't worry, I'm on your side. Now we have to go to the others, understood?" Staring intently at the nodding boy, Izuku picked him up and started running towards the heroes. As he ran, someone threw a tree at them. Kota covered his eyes, bracing for the impact, but felt nothing. Opening his eyes, he saw the tree had been cut in half. He then saw the green-haired boy wielding a strangely shaped sword. Izuku placed the child on the ground and stepped back. "Izuku. Listen, go quickly to your aunt." Kota. And what are you going to do?" "Izuku. I'll do my job. Now go. If you stay here, you'll only get in my way. Now get out." In a cold tone. When the little boy saw the green-haired boy's gaze, he started to run. Seeing this, the villain threw another tree at him, which was destroyed by the green-haired boy. "And who the hell are you?" Looking at the green-haired boy. "Izuku. I should say the same. My name is Muscular." "Izuku. Muscular?" In a surprised tone. "Muscular? Do you even know who I am?" "Izuku. I know you're an underworld assassin who kills for pleasure. And tell me, why do you want to catch that kid?" "Muscular. I'm going to make him pay for what his parents did to me. Showing him his eye, and who are you? Izuku. I'm known as Seven. Upon hearing that, the villain was surprised as he had heard a lot about him in the underworld and thanks to the things they said about the Assassin 7, his curiosity had been piqued. The villain could sense the murderous instinct emanating from the green-haired man and felt his hands begin to tremble, but then he smiled, which turned into a deranged laugh as he clenched his hands. Muscular. Fantastic, so you're the famous Assassin 7. Tell me, what are you doing in a place like this? As his muscles began to increase. Izuku. The same as always, just doing my job. As he took a defensive stance. Muscular. Very well, 7, let's see if you're as good as they say you are. With that, Muscular threw 2 trees at him, which Izuku cut in half. But the villain had used this as a distraction, and when the trees were cut down, Muscular lunged at the green-haired boy, delivering a blow that sent him flying, thus beginning the fight. Chapter 7. Muscular attacked the green-haired boy by throwing things at him, which Izuku cut or dodged. The villain had suffered great damage from the sword cuts, while Izuku only had minor scratches. The green-haired boy knew very well how to hide in his surroundings, and thanks to this, he was able to launch surprise attacks against the villain. The green-haired boy was on top of a tree, looking at the villain who was searching for him with his eyes. Muscular. Damn it, where are you? Izuku. Right here. As he said that, the villain turned, seeing the green-haired boy falling towards him. Muscular saw red, cold, emotionless eyes. Muscular increased his muscle mass to its maximum, but only the sound of flesh being cut could be heard. Izuku, in one swift motion, wiped the blood from his sword and began to walk away as the villain fell to the ground, sliced in half, the ground becoming covered in blood. When Izuku reached the others, he saw that they were tending to the wounded. Without drawing attention, he moved away from the area. The green-haired boy sat on a log and took off his shirt to treat a wound the villain had inflicted. He saw that it was bleeding a little, so he looked for something to treat it with, but then he saw someone hand him some bandages and other things to treat his injuries. The green-haired boy looked up, seeing the heroine's nephew. The boy simply looked away and gestured for him to take the things. The freckled boy took them and placed them to the side, beginning to heal himself while the boy simply watched. Izuku. Do you need anything? A little uncomfortable seeing the little boy staring at him. Hoda. I just want to thank you for saving me from that villain. Izuku. Don't thank me. I only did it because it's my job. As the wound closed, he let out a groan of pain. Hoda. Hey, why don't you go get it fixed up? Izuku. It's not necessary. It's ready now. Seeing that the wound wasn't bleeding anymore, he started bandaging it. In life, you have to learn to fend for yourself, whether it's to get ahead or to help someone. You don't have to wait for a hero to always come and rescue you. If you wait for that to happen, then you'll just die. Getting up and starting to walk, by the way. Stopping, thanks for the bandages and everything else. With that, he vanished in a blur of speed, leaving the boy pondering what the green-haired boy had said. Meanwhile, the freckled boy was analyzing the area where the villains had attacked, trying to find something, since it was supposed to be a secret place known to very few people. Then he saw a blonde-haired boy emerge from some bushes. His name was Yuga Aoyama. When the boy noticed the green-haired boy's presence, he was startled. Aoyama. Izuku, what are you doing here? Izuku. The teachers sent me to check if there were any injuries or villain presence in the area. Lying, while staring at him intently. Aoyama. I understand. I'd better go with the others. Leaving. Izuku. Hey. He caught the boy's attention, causing him to become frightened and turn around, staring at him with a cold gaze and observing piercing red eyes. Aoyama. Is something wrong? Izuku. The camp is the other way. Pointing in the direction of the camp. Aoyama. Oh, yes, of course, thank you. Having said that, he quickly left, leaving the green-haired boy alone, who could only watch his classmate depart. Izuku sighed and left as well. The following days passed normally, although Izuku and the other pro heroes remained on alert in case of a second attack by the villains. A few days later, Class B also arrived, and both classes would have skirmishes or simply work together on team projects. Izuku just watched his classmates and occasionally snuck out at night to check that nothing was out of the ordinary. When the time at the camp ended and everyone returned to UA, Izuku went to speak with the principal. Izuku. Do you have a moment? Nezu. Of course, what can I do for you? Izuku. The camp was attacked. Nezu. What? Surprised. Izuku. I don't know, it was possibly the villains who attacked them the first time. Nezu. Some kind of accident. Izuku. No, the damage was minimal. It seems Class 1 handled it well after their first encounter with the villains. Nezu. I see. So, what do you suggest? Izuku. Just 2 things. The first is that you give your students more rigorous training so they can gain more combat experience. Nezu. I understand, I'll keep that in mind. And the second thing? Izuku. The second thing is that you have an infiltrator in your academy. Nezu. An infiltrator. Izuku. That's right. Only Class 1 and 1B knew they were going on the training camp, but the villains only appeared when Class 1 was present, so that rules out Class B. Nezu. I understand. Thank you for your report. Izuku. I'm just doing my job. Nezu. Wait, stopping the green-haired, do you think you can find the infiltrator? Izuku. That won't be a problem. Nezu. What do you mean? Izuku. Sighing, I'm just saying that since the infiltrator is someone from Class A, then he should give them false reports or just very little information about the activities they'll be doing. If he does what I say, the infiltrator won't be able to do much, just like the villains. Nezu. I understand. The less information there is, or the more incorrect it is, the less the villains will be able to attack us, and if they do, we can set a trap for them. Izuku. If that's all, I'll be going. Nezu. Alright, see you later, young Midoriya. Just then, they both heard the principal's door open, revealing Aizawa. When the dark-haired boy entered the room, he saw only the principal. He began to tell him about what had happened at the training camp while Izuku walked towards the exit. On his way, he encountered the symbol of peace in his muscular form. The hero smiled at him while Izuku simply continued on his way. Chapter 8. The days passed normally, and the principal had done what he had discussed with the green-haired boy. A sports festival was scheduled for a few days from now. Izuku asked the principal if he had to participate, to which the principal replied that he did, as he didn't want to arouse any suspicion. Izuku asked for information about the activities that would take place at the festival. The principal only gave him the necessary information. Once he had it, Izuku left. He knew he shouldn't stand out too much, as doing so could attract the attention of the heroes. The day arrived, and everyone was preparing. The first event would be a competition where they would have to dodge various obstacles. Izuku couldn't bring his sword since that went against the rules, so all he had were his skills. When the starting order was given, everyone quickly ran out. The first to leave were a bi-colored boy, an ash-blonde boy, and a green-haired boy. Although the bi-colored boy had frozen the ground, this wasn't a problem for the freckled boy, as he could maintain his balance. Little by little, Class A was taking the lead, as the constant attacks from the villains meant they already knew how to act in a dangerous situation. The audience was excited, while in the stands, 3 people watched a future generation of heroes. They were the big 3 of UA. Mirio. Wow, they're really impressive. Tell me what you think of them, Tamaki. Looking at his friend. Tamaki. They're great, I guess. Mirio. What do you think, Najire? Turning to look at his friend, but seeing that she had a faraway look in her eyes, Najire, is everything alright? Touching her shoulder, making her react. Najire. Yeah, everything's fine. It's just that I was curious to know more about the students' abilities. Mirio. Don't worry, besides, there are still many activities that the hero hopefuls have to do, and you'll be able to see their quirks there. Najire. You're right, but I'm curious about that boy. Mirio. Turning to look at the boy his friend was talking about, you mean the one wearing a hood? Receiving a nod, now that you mention it, he hasn't shown his quirk and only dodges obstacles. Smiling, maybe in the next test we can see what his quirk is. With that, they continued watching the competition. The students had already reached the area where they had to jump over a ravine. Izuku easily ran across the hanging cable, taking the lead, but it wouldn't last long as the ash-haired boy and the bi-colored boy caught up. Kitsuki was angry and was sending explosions to try and knock him down, but Izuku easily dodged them. Then they reached a minefield. The green-haired boy thought that the ash-haired boy had enough brainpower to know that the slightest vibration would cause the mines to explode, but that wasn't the case. Kitsuki sent an explosion that Izuku instinctively dodged, but it caused the mines to explode simultaneously, injuring several students. Izuku. You're an idiot. While running, trying to escape the explosions. The freckled boy ran swiftly, but even so, he couldn't escape the explosion. There was a brief silence in the audience as they wondered if everything was alright. The teachers were busy stopping the competition and going to help the injured, but through all the smoke, the green-haired boy emerged, holding his arm, which was bleeding slightly, as was his forehead. He crossed the finish line, becoming the winner. The crowd screamed with excitement, as they had never expected anything like that. Everyone was taken to the infirmary, and Kitsuki was penalized. Izuku calmly awaited the next round when the bi-colored boy declared war on him. Izuku simply ignored it and continued on his way. The next round would be somewhat complicated since he would have to team up, and since he had won the first test, he would receive several points. Just as he had thought, each person was given a headband containing a certain number of points. Almost no one wanted to team up with him since he had the headband with the most points and it was obvious that everyone would go after him. Izuku had no problem going alone, but he had to follow the rules, so he was placed in a group and he finished 6th in this test since it was impossible to place in the top 3 when everyone was vying for his belt. The next competition was the final test, a battle between all the students. Each student was free to use their quirk. Izuku had received permission from the principal to use his sword as long as it wasn't intended to kill his opponent. Luckily, the matches would take a while, so he had time to rest. The freckled boy decided to go to the food stalls to buy some things to keep him occupied while he waited to be called to the arena. While buying his food, he could feel someone watching him, so while waiting for his order, he vanished in a flash, reappearing behind the person who was watching him. He saw that it was a girl with blue hair who was a little startled by his sudden appearance. "Izuku? Why are you staring at me?" "Nijire. Well, I was just curious about you. Why don't you let people look at your face? Are you hiding something? Is it a scar or something?" But she was interrupted. "Izuku? I can't answer so many questions at once. Besides, why I hide my face is none of your business." Having said that, he left, leaving the girl even more curious about what he was hiding. She could only watch as the boy took his food and left. A few hours later, the green-haired boy was called to the arena. When Izuku stepped up, he saw that his opponent was the bi-colored boy who had declared war on him. Remembering this, a smile appeared on his face. Chapter 9. The two stared intently at each other, analyzing their opponent. The crowd was eager to see what would happen next. Then, the bi-colored boy was the first to attack, unleashing a blast of ice that Izuku easily cut through. The fight had begun, and the spectators could only scream with excitement. With incredible speed, Izuku appeared in front of the bi-colored boy and, with the hilt of his sword, struck him in the face, drawing blood from his nose. The bi-colored boy briefly lost consciousness upon receiving the blow, but before he could counterattack, Izuku used his feet to trip him up, knocking his opponent to the ground. Shoto was astonished, as the green-haired boy had defeated him in such a short time. When he opened his eyes, he saw Izuku holding his sword in front of him. "Izuku? This is over. I thought you'd give me trouble, but I see I was wrong. You're still just a kid." "Shoto. This isn't over." When the bi-colored boy said that, he placed his hand on the ground and spikes shot out from it, but Izuku managed to dodge them. It was as if he already knew what he was going to do. Shoto took advantage of the fact that the green-haired boy had jumped to dodge those spikes and with his other hand, sent a fireball that hit the green-haired boy. "Izuku? So you activated your second quirk. I was wondering when you were going to do it," as a small fire on his shoulder subsided. "Very well, Shoto Todoroki, I hope you entertain me. Show me your full potential." The spectators could only smile and cheer for those they believed would win. The heroes were merely waiting to intervene as the fight between the bi-colored boy and the green-haired boy had escalated into a veritable battleground. Some areas were frozen solid, while others were ablaze. In the stands, the big three were astonished by the skill with which the green-haired boy dodged the bi-colored boy's attacks. They watched as a burst of flame nearly engulfed the freckled boy, but only the part covering his face was burned. Upon seeing this, Nijire was reminded of her first childhood friend, leaving her in shock. However, she quickly dismissed the possibility, thinking it was just a coincidence, and remained focused on what would happen next. Meanwhile, Izuku was searching for an opening, a blind spot he could exploit. Izuku was already tired, so he decided to finish him quickly. He grabbed a piece of ice and threw it at the bi-colored boy, who had evaporated, but as it did, his vision blurred and he lost sight of the freckled boy. He quickly began searching for him, but received a blow to the stomach and then saw Izuku grab his head and knee him. At that moment, the bi-colored boy saw the green-haired boy's face and could only see a look of death. Then he saw that he didn't have his sword and before he could do anything, he felt a pain in his back and when he turned around, he saw that it was the sword. Shoto. Wondering when he stabbed him with his weapon. "Izuku? I won," taking his weapon and pulling it out, making the bi-colored boy spit out some blood. Because there was so much fog from the evaporating ice, no one could see anything. When the fog lifted, they watched a freckled boy leave, while the son of the number 2 hero lay injured on the ground. He was quickly taken away for treatment. As Izuku walked to his seat, he could feel everyone's eyes on him, but he didn't care and just kept walking until he reached his destination. Finally, the 3 finalists were called. Third place went to a boy from Class B, second place to Katsuki Bakugo, and first place to Shoto Todoroki, son of the number 2 hero, Endeavor. Izuku was disqualified because he had used his weapon with the intent to nearly kill a student. When the festival ended, Izuku went home, but on the way, a portal swallowed him up, taking him to a bar he had visited before. "Izuku? Now, what do you need me for?" looking at a screen while signaling to the purple mist to serve him a drink. Afo. I saw you participating in the UA Sports Festival today. Let me congratulate you. Izuku. I don't need your flattery, but I don't think you called me just to congratulate me, did you? Afo. You're right. That's not why I sent for you. Izuku. Tell me quickly. I have things to do, you know. Afo. Okay, I'll get to the point. I want to know why you haven't completed your mission yet. Don't tell me this is too difficult for you. In a mocking tone. Izuku. Not at all, but a big fish like him will be difficult to eliminate without attracting too much attention. Afo. I don't care about that. I paid you to kill the symbol of peace. I don't care if his death is accidental or not. What I want is for him to be dead. Izuku. Don't worry, he will be. After all, you already paid me half. I'm just analyzing my target, and when I have every detail about him I'll eliminate, taking a sip of his drink. For now, I recommend you be patient. I'll let you know when the symbol of peace is dead. By the way, thanks for the drink. Having said that, he left through the same portal he had come through. When he left, he went home to change. Today had been an extremely tiring day for him. After changing, he left his house and went to where his mother was. Upon entering the room where his mother was, Izuku sat down beside her bed. The freckled boy told her that he had participated in the UA Sports Festival that day and had been disqualified. When it was time to say goodbye, Izuku took his mother's hand and placed it on his head. He still remembered how his mother used to stroke his head when he was a child. He placed her hand back on the bed and left, but when he closed the door, his mother's hand moved for a few brief moments. Chapter 10. The days passed, and with them, the level of villain attacks had greatly decreased. Izuku had received some letters from heroes interested in having him join their agencies. The green-haired boy didn't pay them any mind and simply burned them all. After all, it wasn't like he needed them. Training had also increased for all classes, and everything seemed to be going well. Now we find ourselves in the Class A classroom. Izuku appeared to be sleeping, as his eyes were closed, but in reality, he was training mentally. It wasn't all about physical strength. He also needed mental strength. Just then, the door opened, making everyone pay attention, even Izuku, who opened his eyes at the loud sound. They all saw their teacher enter and stand in front of them. Aizawa. Sighing, listen, today you'll have a fight, but this time we'll have some guests who will fight against you. With that, he signaled for the men to enter. Everyone wondered who they were, but then Aizawa spoke. Aizawa. These are the big three of UA, they will be your rivals in this test. After saying that, he signaled to the three big ones to introduce themselves. The first to speak was a blonde-haired man. Hello, my name is Mirio Tagata. It's a pleasure to finally meet the future generation of heroes. Giving them a smile. And my name is Tamki Amajiki. Nice to meet you. Nervously, while looking towards the wall. My name is Najire Hado. It's a pleasure to meet you all. Is it true that Class 1 has already faced real villains? And that's how the girls started asking them several questions that made some of them uncomfortable, because just when they were about to answer, she would ask another question. Then she approached the green-haired boy, Izuku, who wasn't in the mood to answer her, so he just turned his eyes red and unleashed a bit of his killer instinct to scare her. Everyone went on alert and Najire's friends could only expect a negative reaction, but the girl moved closer until she was right in front of the green-haired boy's face, making him a little surprised, and he stopped unleashing his killer instinct, causing everyone to calm down. When Najire was close to the green-haired boy, she saw a necklace that surprised her, but before she could say anything, Aizawa grabbed her with bandages and pulled her away from the place. Aizawa. Alright, introductions are over, now it's time to go train. With that, everyone retreated to the field where the fight would take place. The class was excited to see how strong the big three were. Upon arriving, the teacher explained the rules and what they would do. He also told the green-haired boy that he could only use his sword for self-defense. Izuku was on high alert at all times since he didn't know his opponent's quirks, so he would use his class as bait to see the quirks of the big three. The first to attack was Mirio, who became intangible, and thanks to that, he had already defeated half the class. Izuku was annoyed since he had only seen one quirk, but he already knew how to defeat him. Discreetly, he reached down his pants and touched a device the size of a coin. Everyone had fallen, and only Izuku and the big three remained. The green-haired boy took a bandage and put it over his eyes. Mirio. Hey, why are you wearing a bandage? Don't you think you're underestimating me? Izuku. Not at all, it's just so we're even. Nobody understood anything, and Mirio went straight to attack him, but before he could land a blow, Izuku moved, dodging and surprising everyone. Mirio attacked again, but this time his blow was dodged once more, and Mirio smiled. Mirio. I understand you're using your other senses to predict my attacks, let's see how long you last. Saying that, he began to attack him rapidly, but the green-haired boy always dodged. Izuku removed a little of his bandage and took advantage of the fact that the yellow-haired boy's friends were distracted, attacking them. They were unable to defend themselves in time. Mirio. I thought this was just between the two of us. Izuku. In a real fight, the enemy would take advantage of any opportunity presented to them. I'm just being realistic. Then a slingshot sent him flying, turning around and removing his blindfold to see that Najire was responsible for the attack. Izuku. Looks like the fun is about to begin. Then he saw Tamaki's arms transform into tentacles as he ate something. The big three attacked in unison, forcing Izuku to block their attacks with his sword, but he still took blows from the top students at UA. He could deflect Najire and Tamaki's attacks, but he couldn't block Mirio's. Even though he knew where the blonde-haired boy was going to attack, it seemed the big three would win, but in a swift movement, Izuku appeared behind Tamaki and placed something on his back. Mirio thought he was going to attack, so he went to help his friend, but the green-haired boy quickly got out of the way and created some distance. When the blonde-haired boy deactivated his quirk, a huge explosion erupted, surprising everyone. Mirio and Tamaki were sent flying, crashing to the ground. Najire went to help her friends, but she felt something sharp against her neck. She looked down and saw a sword blade. She turned to the side, seeing the green-haired boy. Aizawa stopped the fight and declared the green-haired boy the winner. Classes continued as normal. Until it was time to leave, the green-haired boy started to walk away, but a blue-haired girl appeared in front of him. Izuku just looked at her and didn't expect her to hug him. Najire. I'm glad to see you again, Izuku-kun. Izuku? What? Pulling away from the hug. Najire. Huh. Is something wrong? Don't you remember me? We used to play together when we were kids. We even made a promise. Putting her hands in her pockets, but the green-haired boy spoke. Izuku? I don't know what you're talking about. I've never seen you before, much less do I remember making a promise with you. He said it in a cold tone. Having said that, he left the place, leaving the girl hurt and confused, watching as the freckled boy slowly walked away. Chapter 11. When the freckled boy got home, he started cooking, but all day he couldn't stop thinking about what that girl had said. Had he made her a promise? If so, what kind of promise had they made? He didn't remember ever seeing her, but he didn't know why. He felt unwell, with a pain in his chest, but he didn't pay much attention to it and decided to rest. After a few hours, he woke up and saw that it was already night. He checked his cell phone and was surprised to find several missed calls from the hospital where his mother was. He quickly grabbed the first thing he saw to change into and rushed to the hospital. When he arrived, he went to the receptionist, who called a doctor to find out about the situation. Izuku? Is my mother okay? In a worried tone. Doctor? Calm down, kid, she's fine. Izuku? Letting out a sigh of relief, why did you call me? Doctor? Well, kid, I have good news about your mother. Izuku? Did she wake up? In a happy tone. Doctor? Not exactly. Let me show you. Opening the door, the two approached the stretcher. Doctor? She has managed to move her arms and speak a little, but she hasn't woken up yet. Izuku? I understand, and thank you for letting me know. Doctor? I'll give you a few minutes. With that, the doctor left the room. Izuku took his mother's hand and saw her do the same. This action made the green-haired boy smile. Izuku? Mom? Inko? Izuku, in a weak but audible tone. Izuku? Oh yes, Mom, it's me, as tears streamed from his eyes. After a few minutes, the green-haired boy left the hospital with a smile. On his way home, he decided to go into a store that was luckily open. He bought some drinks and a chocolate bar, and as he went to pay, he saw the light blue-haired girl who claimed to know him. The sight of each other made them both uncomfortable, so they quickly paid for their things and left. Unfortunately, they ended up walking down the same path. Izuku thought about finding an excuse to get out of that awkward situation, but before he could do anything, the light blue-haired girl spoke. Najire. I'm sorry if I made you uncomfortable. Izuku. Not at all, it's just that I don't remember doing everything you told me to. Najire. Can I ask you a question? Izuku. Go ahead. Najire. Where did you get that necklace? Izuku. I honestly don't remember. I had some accidents that caused me to lose my memory. I only remember a few things. Najire. I understand. I think we're off to a bad start. Let me introduce myself again. My name is Najire Hado. Extending her hand. Izuku. Izuku Midoriya, it's a pleasure to meet you, Najire. Shaking hands, they both laughed as they walked towards their homes. On the way, they talked about trivial things. Izuku was surprised that the girl lived so close to him and wondered why he hadn't noticed before. Najire told him they had moved a few weeks prior. Izuku understood why he hadn't seen them. He had been on a mission abroad during the week she had moved. Nijire said goodbye to the green-haired boy and went home. Meanwhile, Izuku, for some reason, felt comfortable next to her. Then he felt a slight headache and for a few seconds, he saw himself in the figure of a girl playing as children. Weeks passed and Izuku and Nijire had formed a friendship. The girl resolved to win back her childhood friend and although it hurt that he didn't remember the good times they had shared, she would create new ones. Little by little, without realizing it, Nijire had fallen in love. Izuku, who sometimes blushed over small things like his hands brushing against the green-haired boys, was unconsciously changing and had formed bonds with the girl's friends. Although everything seemed fine in the freckled boy's life, Izuku knew that sooner or later his friends would discover who he really was. So, little by little, he began to distance himself from them. But even though he did this, the girl followed him. Izuku wondered why. There had also been some attacks by the villains, which led the freckled boy to discover who the infiltrator was. Currently, Izuku was leaning against a wall when he heard footsteps approaching. He left the area and saw the principal. "Director? I wanted to see you young. Midoriya." "Izuku? I have to tell you something." "Director? Go ahead." So the two of them started walking. "Izuku? I know who the infiltrator in your academy is." "Principal? Really?" Surprised tone. "Izuku? So what do you want me to do with him? I could eliminate him and make it look like an accident." "Principal? No, I want you to capture him so we can find out what his objective was and the location of the League of Villains." "Izuku? I understand. And what happens after that?" "Principal? After that, I would like you to help us capture the entire league." "Izuku? I understand, but you know that will be a separate case and the sum will be greater." When he said that, the director just sighed and stopped. "Izuku? Judging by your expression, I see you don't have the money to pay me, do you?" "Director? You're right, I wouldn't. But you know what, young Midoriya? Sometimes it's not just about money, it's about doing the right thing." At that moment, they both heard a noise and turned to see a light blue-haired girl. "Think about what I told you. Oh, and one more thing. When you find the informant, bring him to my office. Have a good day." As she left the place, when the girl arrived where the green-haired boy was, he paid no attention to her and continued walking. "Nijire? Hey Izuku, is everything alright? I've noticed that whenever I want to talk to you, you walk away. Is there a problem?" "Izuku? I have a question for you. If I were a criminal, would you still want to be by my side, knowing that I've caused millions of deaths in my wake?" "Nijire? Huh? What are you talking about?" "Izuku? Just answer my question." "Nijire? Well, not knowing what to say." There was a brief silence, which was broken by the green-haired boy. "Izuku? I see. Listen, Nijire, from this day forward, don't try to get close to me because I'll distance myself from you. You and I are no longer friends. Goodbye." The green-haired man, without saying anything more, left the place. Chapter 12. From that day on, Izuku had kept his promise to keep the girl away. Although it hurt, he knew it was necessary to protect her from his enemies. Not long ago, someone had put a large bounty on his head and every day he had to face experienced assassins who wanted to kill him. The girl's friends watched as she was always sad and when they tried to talk to the green-haired boy, they only received a threat along with some cuts. Currently, Izuku was in his classroom, looking at the symbol of peace, when he heard that they would have a fight against him. This surprised and excited some, as they could demonstrate how much they had progressed with their training. Izuku knew this would be a good moment to fulfill his mission. The symbol of peace gave them some time to prepare. Izuku went to the bathroom, since that's where the person he wanted to talk to was. Upon entering, he saw his classmate, Yaga Aoyama. "Izuku? Can I talk to you?" "Aoyama? Sure, and about what?" "Izuku. Let's talk about what will happen next." "Aoyama? Huh? What do you mean by that?" He turned to look at the green-haired boy. "Izuku? I think you know." "Aoyama? I don't know what you're talking about. I think you're hallucinating." But he didn't finish speaking because the green-haired boy had slammed him against the wall. "Izuku? I'll only tell you once what the League of Villains wants with all this." He squeezed his neck. "Aoyama? What do they want?" He smiled. Izuku looked down, noticing something glowing from the boy's stomach. He quickly moved out of the way, dodging the powerful beam that struck the wall, shattering it. Aoyama tried to escape, but when he tried to run, he fell to the ground. He turned to see that one of his legs had been severed. He looked at the green-haired boy and saw him with his sword drawn, small drops of blood falling from it. Before he could scream, the freckled boy knocked him out. He quickly applied a tourniquet to stop him from bleeding to death and carried him away. Luckily, no one had heard anything. The freckled boy took him to the principal's office. When the principal asked what had happened, Izuku explained that he was the League's infiltrator and that he had to cut off Aoyama's leg because he had tried to escape. Nezu understood and quickly called recovery to attend to him. Izuku. Hey, principal, one more thing. I've come to give you this. Handing him an envelope. Nezu. And this? Opening it, he sees it's a check for the money he paid the green-haired boy, which surprises him. Why are you giving me this back if this is your payment? Izuku. I don't care about the payment anymore. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go to my class. Nezu. I understand. Without another word, Izuku left, leaving the principal happy as he thought he had set the freckled boy on the right path. But he was very wrong. Back with the green-haired boy, he was ready to fulfill his mission. He saw that practice had already begun and everyone was attacking the symbol of peace together. He easily dodged some of the students' attacks, but then he had to quickly dodge a cut that left a small gash on his cheek, from which some blood trickled. He turned and saw that it was the green-haired boy who had performed such a feat. Izuku. How about a fight, you and me? It's not wise to be overconfident, young Midoriya. Izuku. I'm not overconfident, I just don't want any interruptions. Alright then, I hope you're ready. Giving him a smile. Izuku. Of course I am. As his eyes turned red and his sword lengthened, before I go, let me tell you something. This sword isn't normal, so no matter how much distance you put between yourself and me, it will still cut you. Having said that, he lunged at the symbol of peace while the principal was in his office with other heroes, watching the infiltrator being attended to by the UA nurse, and when he had regained consciousness, he was asking him some questions. Nezu. Tell me, young Aoyama, why are you with the League? Aoyama. I'm sorry, but I can't answer that or any other question you might have. Nezu. And why not? Aoyama. If I do, he'll kill me and my family. In a frightened tone. Nezu. Who are you referring to? Aoyama. Him. But before saying anything, he felt to avoid saying too much. Nezu. We can help you if you cooperate with us. We promise to protect you and your family. Aoyama. That doesn't matter anymore. Once that happens, you won't be able to do anything. Nezu. What do you mean, that happens? Are you planning an attack somewhere? Aoyama. You should ask your assassin. After all, he also works for us. Aizawa. Principal, what do you mean by assassin? Somewhat confused. Aoyama. Well, I thought you already knew. Izuku Midoriya isn't who he claims to be. He's actually the best assassin in the underworld. Perhaps the name 7 rings a bell. Upon hearing that, the heroes were surprised and simply stared at the director, who had lowered his head. Aizawa. Director, why would you hire an assassin? Nezu. Because difficult decisions require strong wills. By the way, where is young Midoriya? Aizawa. He and Class A are currently undergoing a test with the symbol of peace. Upon hearing that, the rodent was shocked and the missing pieces quickly came together in his mind, so he knew what was happening. Nezu. All teachers, go to Almight's location and capture young Midoriya. This is a code red. Looking seriously at everyone present, but seeing that they weren't paying attention, he spoke in a firm tone, didn't you hear? All teachers, go there now. Having said that, the heroes said nothing more and simply withdrew. Each hero who taught at the academy went there while the students wondered what was happening. The big three also went, wanting to know what was going on. When they all arrived, they were shocked to see the bloodied body of the symbol of peace, with Izuku on top of him, breathing heavily. Nijire, seeing this, was shocked and put her hands to her mouth. At that moment, Izuku simply turned to look at them. Chapter 13. The heroes activated their quirks to attack the green-haired boy, and they all charged. But Izuku threw a small smoke bomb that vanished. One of the heroes told them to search the entire UA campus, since he couldn't have gone that far. Meanwhile, the green-haired boy was running towards the city when a portal opened in front of him. He stepped through and saw that the number 1 villain was waiting for him. Izuku. The job's done, now give me my money. Afo. Of course, you'll get what we agreed on. Snapping his fingers, Kurogiri brings some briefcases, here's what we agreed on. Izuku simply opened a briefcase and saw the money, so he closed it and began collecting the other briefcases. When he had them all, he was about to leave when the villain spoke. Afo. You know, I'd like to hire you for another job. Izuku. No, I already have enough money to live on for the rest of my life. Afo. That's a shame, you know. As Izuku said that, he saw some villains appear, as well as some assassins. Izuku. A trap. Looking angrily at the villain. Afo. Don't take it the wrong way, kid. I'm just tying up the last loose ends. Standing up from his chair, kill him. With that, he disappeared into a portal created by Kurogiri. The villains and assassins drew their weapons and activated their quirks. Izuku. You're making a mistake if you let me go. I won't kill you. but he received no response. So be it. Izuku dropped the briefcases, and when they hit the ground, the villains and assassins rushed at him. Izuku quickly drew his sword and began to counterattack. He couldn't fight in such a confined space, as there were several villains, so he used another smoke bomb to escape. It worked for a brief moment, as they managed to find him. When he emerged, he saw the entire city destroyed. Izuku quickly went to the hospital where his mother was and saw that the place was devastated. Izuku was in shock and started running toward the building. Upon entering, he saw several injured people and nurses running around. Izuku asked for his mother, but no one answered him as they were too busy. So, the green-haired boy ran to his mother's room, only to find the wall destroyed. The freckled boy fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. A doctor saw him and approached him. "Doctor? Kid, are you alright?" "Izuku? What happened?" Looking at the doctor. "Doctor? Well, a villain appeared and started destroying the city. The heroes are trying to stop him right now. Luckily, we managed to evacuate everyone from the upper floors." "Izuku? Does that mean my mom is okay?" "Doctor? That's right. They were all transported by helicopter to safe areas." When he said that, the green-haired boy got up from the ground, feeling relief in his chest, knowing that his mother was alright. He then approached the destroyed wall. "Doctor? Wait, what are you going to do?" In a scared tone. "Izuku? It's time to do things right this time." With that, the freckled boy jumped from the building. The doctor quickly went to the spot where the freckled boy had jumped and didn't see the green-haired boy. Meanwhile, Izuku was running quickly through the city to where the heroes were fighting the number one villain. The green-haired boy could only see what he had caused by destroying the symbol of peace. Izuku saw how the big three were also facing the number one villain, but they were seriously injured, especially Nijire. The villain was about to launch an attack, but they only saw blood gushing from the villain's back. Everyone present wondered what was happening. Then they saw the green-haired boy step in front of the big three, who thought Izuku was going to attack them, but they only saw him turn his back on them. "Izuku? Are you surprised to see me?" Mockingly. "Foe? Not at all. In fact, I'd be disappointed to learn that the best assassin is dead. Let me ask you something." "Izuku? Go ahead." "Foe? Do you think you can stop me? Don't tell me that after all this time you're planning to play the hero." Mockingly. "Izuku? Maybe, but if you want to know the real reason I'm here, it's because you thought you could kill me and don't think I'll let you get away with it so easily." "Foe? Then try to stop me." While tending to the wound the freckled boy had inflicted on his back, Izuku, in a flash of speed, disappeared and reappeared behind the villain, but the villain managed to block his attack. Everyone could only see sparks flying from the area as Izuku was giving 100% in this fight. There came a point where the two distanced themselves, and as they did, people could see that both had cuts, but the one with the most cuts was the green-haired boy, who was breathing heavily. "Foe? I expected nothing less from you, Assassin 7, but I think this should end now, don't you think?" As his arm grew larger and more muscular. All of this was because the villain was combining several of his quirks to end the green-haired boy's life in one fell swoop. Izuku simply spat out some blood and smiled. At least if he died, he was at peace knowing his mother would receive the treatment she needed, and if she ever woke up, she would know that for the first time in her life, her son had done something heroic, something she could be proud of. He prepared to attack, ready to deliver the decisive blow. Nijire tried to help him, but she was too exhausted and injured to do so. Then, they both launched themselves at each other, and when their attacks collided, a huge cloud of dust was created. Chapter 14. Everyone was anxious to know who would be the victor of that colossal battle. They watched as the cloud of dust slowly began to dissipate, and when it had finally cleared completely, they could see the green-haired boy on the ground, surrounded by a pool of blood. At the other end, they could see the number one villain standing motionless, not even making a movement. Everyone thought evil had won, and Nijire gasped at the sight of the green-haired boy on the ground. But what no one expected was to see the number one villain fall to the ground, his head detaching from his body. No one could believe it. Both had died after delivering their final attack. But they were shocked to see the freckled boy weakly rise from the ground. When Nijire saw him, she tried to go to him, but she saw the heroes surrounding him. Izuku no longer had the strength to even raise his sword, so from his pocket, he took out his last smoke bomb. As he was about to throw it to the ground, he was shot by the hero, who wore a mask and was dressed as a cowboy, didn't stop him from throwing her to the ground. He disappeared from the sight of all the heroes, who quickly began searching for him, even though they knew he wouldn't get far since he was seriously injured. Nijire, feeling a bit better, used her quirk and began to fly, searching for the green-haired boy from above. The girl desperately searched for the boy she had fallen in love with. She noticed small traces of blood in an alley. The blue-haired girl followed the trails, which led to a sewer. She hesitated to enter, but she had no other choice. The mere thought of the boy she loved dying in a place like that compelled her to go in. The disgusting smell almost made her vomit, so she made a mental note that if he saved the freckled boy, she would kill him for making her go into a place like this. Without wasting time, she followed the blood trails, and as she turned a corner, she saw the green-haired boy's body lying on the ground, while small rays of light entered through the. She reached for the manhole cover, quickly approached, and placed the freckled boy's head on her lap. She was frightened, thinking she was too late, and small tears escaped her eyes, falling onto the freckled boy's face. He slowly opened his eyes. His vision was blurry, but little by little, he could see clearly the girl who was crying. Izuku. Nijire, he said in a weak tone. Nijire. Izuku, while looking at the freckled boy. Izuku. I remember everything now. Upon hearing this, the girl was surprised by what he said. Nijire, there's something I've wanted to tell you for a long time, coughing up some blood. Nijire. Izuku, hold on a little longer, with a trembling voice. Izuku. I think it's a little late for that, with the wound I don't have much time left, just a few hours. Nijire, what I wanted to tell you is that I love you. Upon hearing this, the girl's eyes opened in surprise as she felt her cheeks turn red. I'm sorry I didn't tell you when I had the chance, because I felt I wasn't the right one to be with you. I just want you to be happy. I'm truly sorry and I hope that someday you can forgive me, closing his eyes. Nijire was in shock, unsure what to do. Then she saw that Izuku was still breathing, but his heartbeat was slowing down. The blue-haired girl hesitated because if she took the green-haired boy to a hospital, the heroes would likely imprison him for the death of the symbol of peace. She was caught between a rock and a hard place, but she didn't waste any time and hoisted the freckled boy onto her back. She had already lost him once and she vowed she would never lose him again. Time skip. 5 weeks. 5 weeks had passed since the death of the symbol of peace and the number one villain. In those weeks, no one had heard anything about the Assassin 7 and everyone assumed he was dead. Nijire's friend supported her, seeing how depressed she was. Currently, Nijire, dressed casually, was heading to a restaurant. Upon entering, she scanned the room until she found the person she was looking for. She approached him and the man removed his cap, revealing his black hair. The two chatted for a while as their order arrived. When it came, they both ate and when they finished, the dark-haired man paid the bill. Then they both left the place and started walking. Nijire. You know, I like going out with you, even if it's not always. I really enjoy it when we have time alone. I like spending time with you too, Nijire. You know, there's someone I want you to meet. Nijire. Really? And who is it? Curious tone. It's a surprise. Smiling and extending her hand. Nijire. You know I don't like surprises, Izuku. Now the subject revealed as Izuku simply looked around to make sure no one had heard his name, and seeing that no one had heard him, he just frowned, which brought a smile to the girl's face. Nijire. I'm sorry, I forgot I shouldn't call you that. After all, Izuku Midoriya, better known as the Assassin 7, is dead. Mockingly. Izuku. That's right, and I prefer it that way. You know what? I was going to tell you what the surprise was, but now that you've said my name, I won't. Mockingly. Upon hearing that, the girl made an adorable pout, took the freckled boy's hand, and they began to walk. After a few hours, they arrived at a hospital room where a green-haired girl sat on the bed reading a book. Izuku then spoke. Izuku. Mom, there's someone I want you to meet. Nijire. Hello, nice to meet you. My name is Nijire Hado. Inko. Smiling, it's a pleasure to meet you, Nijire. I imagine you're my son's girlfriend, aren't you? In a mischievous tone. This made both her son and the girl blush and she could only nod at what the green-haired boy's mother had said. Inko. Very well, closing her book and tell me how you met. So the two of them began to tell him how they met and also told him about everything he had missed while she was in a coma, while Izuku could only smile seeing the two people he loved most in the world living happily together. I hope you enjoyed this beautiful story. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.